Yo, what is going on, guys? J.Yumeko here, and today we're back with some more Root Devil Before Crime After Days Extended Edition. So, last time we left off, we finally got around to starting Root B. Root B. So we finally got around to starting Root B. So, I did read the comments, so look at me. Alright, I'm learning. I did read the comments, and so basically what it seems like is the situation is this. I was told that Route B is quite literally just everything that happens before. So as far as I understand, we may not be getting as far into the story as like, oh, what happened to the students inside the laboratory. I think it's more so a thing of just, well, at least what I was told was that it's basically just a, like, regular dating sim visual novel, kinda. So with that in mind, and also that for one, there's two big things that I was told. One of them is that this route is probably just gonna give me a lot more questions, and then there's supposedly two more routes, if I'm remembering that correctly. There's more routes after these two, in which I'm gonna have to play through, and then those are going to be the routes that actually give us answers as to what's going on, which makes more sense because I was told that this, was like, this is a potentially 100 plus hour thing to get through, so it makes sense that it's so long like that. Just to let you guys know, I will be posting one of my little update / vlog type videos. I just got a couple things I want to ask, which I want to keep that for that dedicated video, but just to kind of keep an eye out for that. Without further ado, let's jump right on back into it. Let's see. So, to quickly recap what has happened, first off, go watch the last episode if you haven't already. I highly recommend it. But to quickly recap what's happened, we have picked up as Natsuhiko and the gang. He's got Yuri, who lives with him. They were childhood friends. Her parents died in a car accident. They were the two kids that were caught up in the fire that happened at Labo all those years ago that we learned about while playing as whatever the guy's. I already forget his name. But anyways, while we were playing Route A, we heard about that fire. So basically, she's super traumatized. She never even wants to step foot outside, so she's kind of locked herself up in the house. We have the other friend, Mashido, I think her name is. God, I hope that's right. But she's another childhood friend character, and she's kind of comes over every day and makes breakfast for us. Clearly, she's the childhood friend wife kind of character. Then also we have Sally. We haven't quite met her yet. We've caught a glimpse of her in the crowd. And she just seems very mysterious right from the get-go. So a couple other things that we learned. For one, we learned that what's his name? Ukida, there it is. We learned that Ukida knows these kids. Well, actually, I think we knew that. We knew that already. I think pretty much all the characters know each other to some degree. But, so Ukida, got into some car accident because he's a dumbass, and then, got saved by our rescue squadron and all that. We learned a lot more about AD, and I think it was BC, and that Natsuhiko is actually very, very prevalent in it. We learned about their grading systems, their education systems, yada, yada, yada. So, a lot of, world-building stuff aside from that. But, the most interesting thing I'd say that happened last episode, which, again, big spoiler warning, go and watch it, was that we kept having these weird kind of breaks in reality / illusion, delusion, however you want to say it, kind of things, where Yuri would kind of just start talking crazy to us. She'd be like, oh, Natsuhiko, you're blah 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 blah, and yada yada yada, and stuff like that. The watch breaking is kind of the symbol of that. So we can actually check here. Yeah, so his watch was broken. Fun things, painful things you cannot overcome without courage. You may have gained already gained the strength necessary to overcome your sadness and you don't even realize it. So yeah, she was saying a bunch of cryptic shit. God, that was a very long intro and recap. Let's just jump into it.
Hikari. 聞こえる? Hikari.
No? Natsuhiko opened his eyes upon hearing Yuri's voice.
よかった。無事だったんだね。
Here you go. So it looks like we are going to end up kind of jumping back and forth. So as far as I remember, we're in Labo, explosions go off, we get caught up in one of the explosions. Natsuhiko strained his consciousness together as he stood up. He seemed to have had a dream in the short time he was unconscious. Through the smoke and smog, he rushed over to Mashiro.
Natsuhiko! 爆発音がしたけど大丈夫?
いや、ここは
We're in Labo, baby.
今がいつでどういう状況かわかる?
いつって
He looked to his watch on reflex, but it had been broken. The moment he saw it, he remembered. Today was September 16th. That's right. I'm trying to find a way out of this facility. But along the way he encountered Yuri, despite her never leaving the house, and immediately afterward they got caught in an explosion. All around him were wisps of flame flickering in the air, perhaps due to the explosion.
Yuri, 逃げよう!
Mashiro and the other girl stared in confusion at Natsuhiko's exclamation.
Yuri? Yuri がどうしたの?
いや、僕も驚いたんだけど、ユーリがこの施設の中にいたんだ。
Mashiro and the other girl looked around in shock. Yuri was standing in the smoke.
どうしてユリが? 家から出られないはずでしょ?
That's the big question.
まさか僕らが心配でつい
The moment those words left his lips, an announcement rang out over the intercom.
緊急放送です。ただいま施設内で多数の爆発が起きています。爆発は主に各非常階段付近で発生。
Conveniently.
今のところ第2エリア以降の非常階段は一部無事ですが、それらも随時崩壊している模様です。危険です。職員の皆様は早急に地上に避難してください。
Natsuhiko gasped as he heard the desperate voice screaming. The situation was critical. He didn't understand why Yuri had come here, but there was no time to ask her.
こうなったらユーリも連れて4人で脱出しよう。サリュー、第1エリアのエレベーターは使えそうだったか?
The girl beside Mashiro answered.
残念ながら止まっていた。どうやらエレベーターは普通の模様。地上に出るには無事な非常階段を探すしかないよ。
じゃあ行こう。第2エリアはこの先だ。
Everyone nodded to Natsuhiko in consent, and they all started to run. As he ran, Natsuhiko muttered listlessly.
あの日の夢を見てたんだ。6日前、9月10日の夢。
9月10日?
考えてみれば、あの日から日常が変わり始めていた気がする。初めてテレパシーを使ったのも、ユーリが予言めいたことを言ったのも。
So we are acknowledging that.
ユーリが予言?
これから僕の身にはいろんなことが起きると思うってさ。なあユーリ、なんであんなこと言ったんだ?
Yuri didn't reply. God, this fucking little bitch is so full of secrets, isn't she? I mean, god damn it, dude.
今は全てのゲートが開放されてるって言っていたのに。
Dude, I broke my goddamn chair, and now it is so uncomfortable. That sucks, dude. Apparently, the gate had warped slightly due to either the explosions or the fires, and was stuck shut.
夏彦、引き返す。
いや。
The path back was blocked by flames. It was too late to turn back now.
仕方ない。手動でこじ開けよう。みんな手伝ってくれ。
They jumped to the gate and strained themselves hard. The gate creaked and started to open little by little. However,
どうしたマシロ?
爪が
Machio, this is not the time to be talking about your nails. On closer inspection, part of her nail had torn off, and blood was oozing from her finger.
大丈夫か？僕らだけでも十分だから、ユーリと一緒に待ってろ。
Machio stepped back as the others returned to pry and open the gate. The fire raged closer from behind. If they didn't act quick, they would be burned to death. But nevertheless, a certain feeling rose up in Natsuhiko's chest. And that reminds me, something similar happened just the other day. What day was that? That's right. It was the morning after Yuri had made that bizarre prediction. The moment that thought crossed Natsuhiko's mind.
予言したのはそれだけじゃないはずだよ。
Yuri whispered right beside him.
え？
The noise faded away into the distance so that all he could hear was Yuri's voice.
楽しいことも辛いことも勇気なくしては乗り越えられないこともだけどきっとそのどれもが避けちゃいけないことなんだよ。
ユーリ。
Why is she saying that sort of thing now? No. How can she even tell what I'm thinking? Those two questions came up into his head, but he formed neither of them into words. Yuri alone continued to speak.
あれからいろんな問いをかけたよね。
I don't know.
ヒコリンはその問いに答えられる？
Each word Yuri spoke sent shudders into Natsuhiko's mind.
ううん。耐えられる
So
は
I'm
ずなん
assuming
だよ。
this is gonna be like their BC shit.
だから思い出して。ヒコリンはその強さを手に入れたことを。
Plot twist, Yuri's a fucking like telepathy ghost or some shit.
どんな問いをかけられてもヒコリンは正しい答えを出せるってことを。
And then, Yuri fell silent. Silence filled the area. Not a sound could be heard. No, one sound could be heard. The ticking of a watch. Natsuhiko's eyes snapped to his watch. Before he realized it, the watch that should have been broken had begun to mark the passage of time once again. Impossible. How? The date and time displayed. 9/11, 6:29. Early morning 5 days ago. And there we go, we're back. Alrighty. Huh. That also reminds me, there are some, couple things we need to check out in the extras, which we'll check out at the end of this. While the intro is playing here, let's start some theories about Yuri real quick. Right, so... watch it, that was his name. So what do we think is Yuri's deal? A girl who doesn't belong anywhere. I think we can skip that, I don't want to watch that again. So what do we think Yuri's deal is? This is me completely throwing punches in the dark here. So, she was wary of Watase for whatever reason. She seemed to have some kind of idea as to what was going on with him. We're not 100% sure. It seemed that Watase had gone down there specifically to, like, try and rescue Yuri. There's still this monster going around, but I think we've kind of concluded that it may not be an actual monster. It may be something going on with the particle accelerator down there that is causing people to kind of be driven to like insanity or like hyper-aggression, something like that. There could now don't get me wrong, there could very well still be somebody down there that's fucking shit up, and it very well could be Watase. We don't know, is the thing. So it's kind of difficult to say. The most important, like, vital thing that happened between Yuri and Watase was that she had continuously run off from him. She did so once. He found her dead, crushed under the, a pile of rubble. And then when he brought everybody to show them, her body was gone. Is she alive? Is she dead? What the fuck even is she? I mean, like, the more I kind of think about it, I really am thinking maybe she is some kind of telepathy ghost. Like, you know, maybe she's just being projected into everybody's minds. I don't know. But interesting character that we know fucking jack shit about. So I guess, well, I'll say it once, I'll say it 1,000 times. I guess we will see.
Hi.
Huh?
Hearing someone call out to him, Natsuhiko suddenly snapped out of his daze. Mashido was there before his eyes. I'm at home? He had the feeling he was somewhere completely different just a moment ago, but there's no way he could have gone out this early in the morning. It was probably just his imagination. Am I still half asleep?
なんだっけ
なんだっけって、手見せてみろって言ったの夏彦でしょ?
Ooh. Whoa, I just came up with like a crazy fucking idea. And this is gonna be so out there. This is probably not gonna be the case at all. But what if Yuri died in that labo fire, and then Natsuhiko is subconsciously using his telepathy to project her existence on, like, out there, right? I mean, it would kind of make sense when you think about it. She doesn't want to leave the house because that would, like, the projection of that would be too much for him to, like, sustain. So he basically is only projecting it to himself and Mashido. And, you know, I guess his mom whenever she's around. The reason that she's suddenly in Labo is because he's, like, in this emergency situation. He's, you know, like, he's now projecting her along there with him. He's brought her presence along in this, like, hyper stressful crisis situation. The reason that Watase was able to see Yuri and envision her being crushed to death. Oh, dude! Whoa. The reason that Watase was able to see Yuri and that she was seen crushed to death but not actually dead is because Watase was very directly communicating, or because Natsuhiko was very directly communicating to Watase. So in a way we can think of it that Natsuhiko's conscious was interfering with Watase's consciousness, right? So that would make sense why not only would Watase be able to, or why Natsuhiko would still be able to project Yuri's being, but also when Watase sees Yuri's dead body, maybe that was where Yuri had actually died way back during that first fire when they were kids. So when Natsuhiko's, like, basically seeing that through Watase's vision, like, that's why that appeared, because it wasn't actually Watase seeing it, it was Natsuhiko seeing it and then, you know, projecting it onto Watase's vision. Again, that could be so, that is going to be so wrong, but, like, tell me that doesn't at this point in the story have some kind of foundation to it. Come on, man. That'd be so cool too.
僕が
What are we saying? What do you mean come again? You told me to show you my hand, remember? So I was told that all the options here are going to be blue. So we're not ever going to really have a chance to die. So yeah. Let's play into Mashido. Let's do it. We'll wife her up. And as always, my girl. Absolutely, but we'll play along.
そうだよ。開かない瓶を無理して開けようとしたら指怪我しちゃったんだよ。
ああ、悪い。そうだったな。
悪い。He took a closer look at Mashido's finger, and sure enough, there was a small wound on it.
痛そうだな。絆創膏を貼っておこう。
Natsuhiko took a bandage out of the medicine box and wrapped it around Mashido's finger.
そそっかしいな、真白は。
面目ない。
Natsuhiko finished wrapping the bandage.
はい、これで OK。
ありがとう。さーて、そんじゃパパッとご飯作っちゃうよ。ちょっと待ってて。
And with that, she went back to the kitchen. September 11th. 5 days until the incident. An everyday sight. A peaceful morning just like the last. Eventually, Yuri came out of her room too.
ひかり、ましろ、おはよう。
ああ、おはようユーリ。
ゆうりおはよ
After an exchange of salutations, Yuri waited to eat breakfast with the other two. Natsuhiko enjoyed these leisurely mornings of his.
う。よし、ご飯できたよ。運ぶの手伝って。
ああ、了解。
ご飯だ、ご飯だ。
Natsuhiko and Mashiro laid out breakfast for three on the table.
それじゃ、いただきます。
And thus another ordinary morning began. After breakfast was over, Natsuhiko sighed.
ごちそうさま。
私もごちそうさま。ましろ、今日も美味しかったよ。じゃあ学校行こうか。ちょっとのんびりしすぎたよ。
Natsuhiko hustled to get himself ready for school. And then he and Mashiro bade farewell to Yuri.
それじゃあ行ってくるよ、ユーリ。
それじゃあね、ゆうり。また後で。はーい。二人とも気をつけてね。
And with that voice at their backs, Natsuhiko turned on the lights and left. And once they reached the bus stop to wait for the bus, Mashiro cheerfully mused.
ところで夏彦、今日はちょっと学校に行くのが楽しみじゃない？
どうしてだ？
だってほら、昨日ついにテレパシーが使えるようになったじゃん。先生に報告したら能力レベル1に認定してもらえると思うよ。
ああ、あれか。
True, yesterday Natsuhiko did use telepathy at the scene of the accident, albeit just once. However, no matter how much he tried, he couldn't do it a second time.
まあ一応使えたのは事実だけどさ、あれを報告する気にはならないよ。先生に報告したらレベル認定試験を受けることになるだろう。
Obtaining ability level 1 certification made tuition slightly cheaper. However, you had to perform several tests of telepathy ability in front of your homeroom teacher to obtain it.
正直言って受かる自信が
That's
ないよ。
crazy.
昨日のはまぐれなんだって。
So the better you can use telepathy, the cheaper your tuition is.
そんな簡単に諦めちゃうの？あ、わかった。エナ先生の前で恥かきたくないんだ。
That is true. You know what? That's a valid point, Mashiro. I do not want to embarrass myself in front of Anna.
まあそれもあるけど、能力レベルとかあまり興味ないってのがより大きいね。僕は能力レベル0のままでも全然構わないんだ。
そうなの？まあいいけどさ。
なんか言いたげだな。
いや別に。ただテレパシーも使えて損はないかもよ。もしも夏彦に超能力があったらみんなを笑顔にさせてあげられる。
なんだそれ。
昨日買ったボイスドラマ版ビヨンドビヨンド第1話のセリフ。
あ、そう。
Natsuhiko shrugged his shoulders. And right around then, the bus arrived. Natsuhiko and Mashiro boarded the bus and headed to school. As soon as they arrived at school, they heard the usual clamor of telepathy.
宗方さん、おはようございます。俺は振られても諦めませんよ。
またあんた？だから無差別テレパシーでそういうこと言うのやめてって言ってるでしょ。っていうか、あんたどこの誰なの？なんで普通に口で告白しないのよ。
シャイなもんで、こういう形でしか告白できないんです。
そんなこと言われたってね、私もあんたの固有の波形わかんないから無差別テレパシーで答えるしかないのよ。もう
行くぞストレート。だからバレバレだって。何？カーブだと。どうだ、ダダ漏れテレパシーを逆手に取った心理戦。くっさー、なんだそのドヤ顔は。しかし新業、俺たちの密談ってずっと学内にダダ漏れだったってことか。ああ、まずいな。俺も昨日まで知らなかったよ。
I'm guessing these were the guys who were talking about Anna's big boobs.
道理で女子の視線が冷たいわけだ。 このままじゃいかんぞ。秘密特訓でもするか。
Natsuhiko and Mashida walked down the hallway, trying to ignore the noise. And once they got into the classroom and sat in their seats, the bell rang. Soon enough, Anna walked in.
皆さん、おはよ
おはようございます。
いい返事ね。さて、今日はちょっとした事件があります。このクラスに新しい仲間が一人増えました。
お、転校生？女の子っすか？
そうよ。それじゃ、三宮さん、入ってきて。
Anna turned to the door and called to someone outside. And in response, a short girl walked into the classroom. Natsuhiko had seen that girl before.
おお、まさかの金髪娘だ。
ハーフかな。ちっちゃくてかわいい。
っていうか小さすぎね。小学生？
The introduction of the sweet, precious little girl had the class ecstatic. But in contrast to the excitement, Natsuhiko's face merely went stiff. That girl. There was no doubt about it. That was the very same girl that had been staring at Natsuhiko and Mashiro at the scene of the accident yesterday. Even the stuffed animal in her arms looked familiar. She had to be the same girl. And that girl is now my classmate?
はい。それじゃあ自己紹介してね。
At that signal, the girl opened her lips.
三宮ルイーズゆい。
And that was it. That was apparently all she had to say about herself.
三宮さんはお母様がフランスの方で、今まではフランスに住んでました。日本の文化には不慣れで戸惑うかもしれないけど。いや、別に戸惑いはしない。気遣いは不要。あら？さようでございますか。
Hey man, don't talk to Anna like that, bro. I'll slap the shit out of you. She shut Anna down in fluent Japanese, but Anna quickly recovered and continued where she left off.
三宮さんは13歳ですが、飛び級でこのクラスに編入してきたそうです。
すっげえ。いわゆる天才児っすか？
かもしれないけど、それ以前に同じクラスで学ぶ仲間よ。みんな仲良くしてあげてね。
I mean, obviously it's not uncommon for like visual novels and anime and manga and stuff to have characters that look like this, but then they're like 18. So it's kind of funny. I guess the only, well, it's not exactly the only, but obviously for me, one of the most prominent animes that's done that kind of thing, where it's like, hey, you have a, child prodigy coming into high school, was Azumanga Daioh with Chio, which, I mean, like, she was straight up like a fucking elementary school kid, bro. Oh man, I gotta rewatch that show. That was good.
Hi!
Ever since around 2025, even Japanese schools started allowing for students to skip grades, so a 13-year-old high schooler was not entirely out of the ordinary, but they were still uncommon. This was the first time Natsuhiko had actually seen one.
それじゃあ三宮さん、ホームルームを始めるから、まずは座ってね。席は一番後ろの窓際よ。
Anna pointed to the seat next to Mashido's.
理解した。
Acknowledging the teacher indifferently, the girl named Sanomiya started walking to her new seat. Her gaze locked upon Natsuhiko the entire way. Haro Ibrinya. How are you? Fine, thank you. Yeah, I don't have any reason to not max out all the characters' like affection meters on the first go. What's with her? But she said nothing, slipping in beside Natsuhiko to reach her seat.
夏彦、ずいぶん可愛い子だね。
ああ、確かに。
ね、お人形さんみたいだよね。やっぱハーフの子って綺麗なんだね。
確かに人種的な要素もあるかもしれないけど。
Regardless of how he put it, she was an eye-catchingly beautiful girl.
でもなんか夏彦のことじっと見てなかった。
Natsuhiko, she is 13 years old, brother. And you're probably, I mean, well, how old is Natsuhiko? He might be like 16. Oh, well, now we're getting into some morals territory. It might be a 3-year age gap only, but it's a 13 and 16 3-year age gap. So, you know, what kind of cards are you guys playing with that? Oh, let's not ask that question, actually. So you can get into some very hostile territory. Listen, Natsuhiko, you need to cool your jets, buddy. You need to play it safe. We got Mashiro right here in front of you, okay?
そうかもな。
まさか知り合いとか？
いや、
でもこいつは面白くなってきたね。
え？何が？
ハーフの転校生なんて盛り上がるじゃん。非日常じゃん。こりゃやっぱ友達にならなきゃ。
Leave it to Machito.
ミーハーだな、お前。
Ever the childhood friend character. As they spoke, Anna continued on with homeroom. And after a few short announcements,
じゃあ朝のホームルームはおしまい。それじゃあ皆さんまた午後にね。
Anna departed the classroom with a farewell. And as if waiting for that cue, all the girls made a beeline to Sanomiya's desk.
ねえねえ、三宮さんってフランスのどこに住んでたの？休みの日とか何してるの？どうしてこんな中途半端な時期に引っ越ししてきたの？
In light of all these questions,
住んでいたところはアンドレジ。休日は読書する。転居理由は家庭の事情。以上。それで。
Icho, sorry. She answered all the questions in one breath and then looked at each of the girls. The girls fell silent at her intense gaze.
それがどうしたの？
いや、どうしたってわけじゃ。ほら、周りが年上ばっかりだと溶け込みづらいかなって思って。あ、そうそう。それでこっちから話しかけようかと。
気遣い不要。年下扱いも望むところではない。年齢が2つ3つ違っても人間性にさほどの影響はないはず。理解した？ならば普通に扱ってくれればいい。
Sanomiya bluntly answered as she took a paperback book out of her bag. Not an ounce of warmth could be felt from her voice. What was that all about? Did she just not like being interrogated? Or was that a show of pride as a child prodigy? In any case, she definitely seemed the type to distance herself from other people.
急に話しかけて
Dang, they backing off? Alright, Machito. It's your turn. Show him how it's done.
行こっか。
One by one, the girls left Sanomiya alone. But that didn't discourage a certain other girl from approaching her.
はい、ボンジュール。マドモアゼル・ルイース。
Alright, you need to chill out, Machiro. It was Machiro. Sanomiya shuddered for a second before glaring at her. That's like if I went up to like a fucking like a German transfer student and I was like, hello, Danke! Nuremberg! Hamburger! That's like if I did that. That'd be a little bit racist.
あれ？ボンジュール。ボンジュール。あ、ボンジュールで会ってたんだ。よかった。ちょっと自信なかったんだ。
Awkward silence. Machiro darted her eyes back and forth, perhaps looking for a topic of conversation, before resting those eyes on the book Sanomiya was holding.
おーっと、趣味が読書とは渋いね。私の友達も本好きなんだけどさ。そう。その本は私も読んだことあるよ。名作だよね。SF ジュブナイルのマスターピースだよね。ねえ。
No matter what Machiro said, Sanomiya would not humor her with a proper reply. Natsuhiko held his breath, watching their little exchange out of the corner of his eye.
何か用なの？いや、せっかくクラスメートになったんだしさ、友達になりたいってだけなんだけど。
Machiro said, heeding Sanomiya's wish not to be treated as a younger child. However, Sanomiya herself merely furrowed her eyebrows in displeasure. That's enough, Machiro. Give up. She's clearly rejecting you. Natsuhiko was about to stop Machiro, but right before he could, Sanomiya muttered.
好きにすればいい。
え？
Even we had to let her out a reaction. An unexpected reaction. He was sure she was going to reject her.
やったそれじゃあ改めて自己紹介ね。私は鳥羽真白で、こっちは友達の夏彦。
え、
And Natsuhiko jumped, startled to hear his own name come up.
おい真白、勝手に僕まで紹介するなよ。
何を固いこと言ってんの。友達の友達は友達でしょ。さあ、ほらほら、挨拶して、年長者から。
Mashiro pulled Natsuhiko to his feet by the arm, so there was really no way he could back down at that point.
あ、天下は夏彦です。よろしく。
よろしく。さて、なんて呼んだらいいかな。三宮さん、ルイーズちゃん、ゆいにゃん。どれも可愛い名前だから迷うな。別にどれでも。そうだ、その3つを縮めてサリュっていうのはどう？
Sanomiya, Louise, and Yui.
おいおい真白、早速あだ名って慣れ慣れしすぎないか？
いやいや、やっぱ友達との距離を近くするのはあだ名ですよ。ユーリもそう言ってました。ねえどう？サリュってのは私としては可愛いと思うんだけどな。うん、別にそれでもいい。本当
？Mashiro nodded to herself repeatedly. Huh. Natsuhiko was a little surprised at how easily the nickname was approved.
意外と素直だな。もしかして気に入った？
まあ。
She answered quite simply. But did she really like it, or was she just sick of Mashiro talking and wanted to get it over with? Probably the latter, I'd say.
じゃあサリュー、これからよろしくね。
Sanomiya, now christened to Salyu, christened? I guess christened technically. Now christened to Salyu, had begun the day with a thoroughly cold attitude. But just like that, she was gradually eased into becoming Mashiro and Natsuhiko's new friend. The first lesson of the day was English. A clear voice rang out in the silenced classroom.
It is only with the heart that one can see lightly.
Classic.
What is essential is invisible to the eye.
Salyu was chosen by the teacher right off the bat to read out of the textbook. When Salyu finished reading, the teacher spoke.
Excellent! 適切な発音でとても美しかったわ。それでは日本語訳はできますか、三宮。
心でしか人は正確に物を見ることができない。肝心な点は目には見えない。
That's right! では座って結構ですよ。
Salyu slid back into her seat, her expression remaining unchanged despite the praise. The unconcerned look on her face perhaps implied she didn't really think it was that big of a deal.
ではこの例文の文法ですが。
With complete disregard of the teacher who was continuing the lesson, Mashiro whispered.
サリュー、さすがいい発音だね。聞き惚れちゃったよ。
But Salyu merely turned her head and looked the other way.
釣れない。
Oh, so did I.
そりゃそうだ。授業中だぞ。前見ろよ真白。
But despite accosting Mashiro for doing the same thing, Natsuhiko sneaked a peek at Salyu himself. She gazed listlessly at the screen with a look on her face that made her seem quite hard to approach. Child prodigy, huh? Perhaps there really were concrete things that separated the geniuses from the ordinary. If only she had some sort of weak spot, we could use that to find some common ground. At least that's what Natsuhiko thought. But the next class was physical education, which only gave Salyu an opportunity to display even more talent. Oh yeah, she is a fucking, prodigy through and through, everything. With a yell, Salyu did a handstand leg spread. Yeah, because keep in mind, she fucking was going toe-to-toe against Watase while hauling and swinging around an axe. And then she was also able to get a fucking solid grip on, what was her name? Come on, remember. The female rescue worker. God, there's Jun and then there's the other one. I forget her name. But she managed to get her in a fucking chokehold and hold her there and make her submit basically. With a yell, Salyu did a handstand leg spread, and without falling over, she proceeded to cross the balance beam while spinning around. Whoa! The teachers and students cheered. Even Natsuhiko and Mashiro watched with gaping mouths.
すごい。
なんか格ゲーのキャラみたいな動きしてるよ。
ああ、たかが体育の授業なのにな。
The phys ed teacher merely instructed the students to use the balance beam in a freestyle performance, and yet she calmly pulled off that bold move. It appeared it wasn't just her intelligence that was superior to the ordinary 13-year-old, but her physical ability too.
天は彼女に難物を与えりゃ気が済むんでしょうか。美貌、知性、身体能力がそれや大三元だよ。100万だよ。
ましろ、例えが親父臭いぞ。
はは、しかもこの学校に来ている以上 PC も当然使えるってことは大三元どころか大数詞。やばいね、パーフェクトガールだよ。
While Mashiro was getting herself excited, Natsuhiko only had a vague feeling that something wasn't right. Why would a girl like that bother transferring to a school like ours? Probably to study BC, but could there be another reason? Perhaps since his meeting with her left such an impression, there were quite a few things that bugged him about her. But in the end, aside from Salyu's bold move, nothing particularly odd happened that period, and thus morning classes came to a close. After lunch break, an extracurricular lesson was scheduled for the afternoon classes. 6th Laboratory of Atomic and Biological Research Organization. I guess it was just giving you a reminder or something. The students were to board a bus for a field trip to an outside facility. Natsuhiko and the others left the school with Enna. And as they waited at the bus stop in front of the school gate, Mashiro talked to Salyu again.
サリュー、学食美味しかった？普通。
They were apparently talking about the food they ate just a while ago. Normal, huh? Just how is she gonna keep up just how long is she gonna keep up the lone wolf act?
ただ、少し驚いた。え？何に？食事を自ら買うというシステムに、食事はすべて運ばれてくるものだと思っていたから。
Natsuhiko couldn't help but interject at her odd statement.
食事が運ばれてくるだって？お嬢様学校みたいなところだとそうなのか？
お嬢様学校とやらの定義がよくわからないけど、自分で食事を買い求めたのは初めて。
Theory, Salyu is an android. Throwing it out there.
そういうものか
？Natsuhiko was taken a little by surprise, but Mashiro on the other hand spoke calmly.
はあ、さすがオフランスの学校ってのはハイソなんだね。
Yeah, trust me, I do not think French schools are high society establishments.
まあ他にもよくわからないことがあったら何でも質問してよ。わからないこと。
Salyu pondered Mashiro's offer for a little bit, and then
あれは何？
She pointed outside the gate and inquired. Salyu's finger was aimed at a camera overlooking the street in plain sight.
監視カメラだよ。監視カメラ。生徒を監視するための？違うよ。不審者が学校に入ってこないように見張ってるだけ。そういえば、昨日街の中でもあれを見かけた。どこにでもあるの？そう。監視カメラは6名士の至るところにあって、犯罪者に睨みを利かせているのさ。
Mashiro explained pridefully. The security cameras established high levels of public order within the city.
おかしな街。何か奇妙な感じがする。確かにちょっと特殊かもね。この街はほら、政令指定機密都市だからさ。
Government designated top secret city.
それは何？多分この国独特の制度なんだけど。そうだ、夏彦、整形とか得意でしょ？説明してあげてよ。
僕？
It seemed like Mashiro wanted to make Natsuhiko and Salyu talk. Natsuhiko sighed and started explaining.
つまりさ、この市は政府による科学特区指定がなされていて、治安第一の条例が敷かれているんだよ。そのためにいろいろと特殊な制度や街頭設備があるんだ。監視カメラはその一環さ。
他にどういう得意点が？
まず転居するにも複雑な手続きが必要なこととか、街に出入りするだけでも市役所に届けを出さなければならないとかかな。
Dang, just to leave the city. That's crazy.
どうしてそこまで？
研究施設が多い以上、産業スパイとかに狙われる可能性を憂慮して、セキュリティには万全が期されているってことらしい。 国策に関わる重要な研究も数多く行われてるから、研究成果の流出を警戒してるんだ。
そうそう、噂じゃ電話とかメールもフィルタリングされているって話だよ。どうサリュウ、そういうの聞くと街全体が秘密研究所って感じしない？ SF っぽくてかっこいいでしょ。
Sayu stared in wonder at Mashido's pressing question.
また真白の妄想が始まったか。生まれた時から住んでると普通の光景だろ。監視カメラだって警官パトロール中の張り紙みたいなもんだ。心にやましいところがなければ気にもならない。
でも少々。
Oops, my bad. Fuck. The security seems a little excessive.
いやいや、ちょっと過剰なくらい警備した方が安心できるんだよ。何しろこの街にはあれがあるからさ。
Mashido pointed to the bus stop's provided map as she spoke. And drawn on the edge of that map, the outskirts of town, was a huge hexagonal building.
あれはラボだよ。鹿鳴市最大の研究施設で、日本を代表する原子力研究所だよ。
Natsuhiko stiffened at the sound of those words, because that was the very same singular thing that bothered him about the city. LABO, its proper name being the 6th Laboratory of Atomic and Biological Organization, an independent administrative corporation that developed technology and conducted research on atomic energy and its biological effects. It was a national facility, but its management was entrusted to Rokame City. One thing was special about this facility. There was a small-scale nuclear reactor housed within the premises for research purposes. They used it to perform several tasks from nuclear fission experiments to nuclear fission reactor development, an enormously profitable field of research. And for the risks the research brought, the national government provided subsidies to the city. I actually already read through all this.
産業スパイが狙うとしたらあそこだよ。世界でも最先端の設備や研究者が揃ってるって話だし。そして夏彦のお母さんはその代表なんだよね。
Mashido smiled as she brought up the subject. But Natsuhiko looked slightly ashamed about it. Natsuhiko's mother, Dr. Miyoko Tenkawa, was a researcher at Labo. Natsuhiko didn't quite know everything about her credentials, but he knew that she was apparently a world-leading physicist. However, Natsuhiko wasn't very fond of his cool-headed researcher of a mother. True, I guess the research results Mom's team produces do provide the city with huge profits, and both the town's prosperity and our livelihoods benefited from it as well. But still. True enough, Natsuhiko's mother had quite a high salary. But despite that fact, Natsuhiko really did not like the facility of Labo itself that much. And it wasn't just because he didn't get along with his mother. The real reason had to do with Natsuhiko's personal past. If only I didn't go to Labo that day. Bitter regret spread through his heart.
何夏彦、急に黙り込んで。
ああ、なんでもないよ。それよりバスはまだかな。
Hey man, Yudi is dead and he's traumatized about it. That's all I'm saying, dude. I'm sticking with my guns here. That might be a batshit crazy theory, but I'm sticking with it. The moment he said that, the bus came rolling in.
はい、皆さん。席順は決まってないから適当に乗り込んでね。
それじゃあ2人とも近くの席に座ろうよ。
まあいいよ。なんか他の男子に睨まれそうだけど。
Sayu looked like she wanted to say something. But eventually, she just nodded at Mashido's words and boarded the bus. I mean, yeah, bro's with Mashiro, who's like
みんな着いたわよ。
basically known as... I mean, like, I think it's already been established that Mashido is, like, basically the school popular girl, right? Like, everybody knows her. Pretty much everybody's friends with her, and she's the kind of girl who, like, if you're a guy at that school, you're like, hey, man, if I could date anybody in this school, it'd be Mashido, right? And then, of course, you have the half Japanese, half French, you know, transfer student who's a beauty. Keep in mind, she's 13 years old, though. So it's like, yeah, Natsuki, you got some game, brother. You got some game. Anna called out to her students.
ここが鹿鳴市における BC 研究のメッカ、超心理学研究所よ。
The Rokame City Parapsychology Research Center, or the PRC for short. As Rokame's city's largest BC research facility, it had achieved many research breakthroughs in the past.
それじゃあ早速中に入ってみましょ
Natsuhiko and the rest of the class followed Enna, who seemed oddly excited for this field trip. Once the class was inside, a staff member in charge of guiding visitors began to explain various things relating to the facility and BC in general.
ここはオフィスとなっておりまして、各種実験データの分析などを行っております。主に生物学的見地から BC 使用時の脳の働きとその関連性を。
Mashiro and the other students listened on curiously, but Natsuhiko was completely inattentive. For Kanina's research facility, they've got a pretty ordinary-looking office. He was merely pondering dumb thoughts like that. In contrast to Natsuhiko, the most curious of them all was
う。なるほど、勉強になります。
their leader, Anna.
BC 粒子関連の研究なんかもここで行っているんですか？
そういった研究は別の研究室で行っております。機密レベルが高いのでお見せできませんが、例えばある研究室では脳内におけるマインド粒子の作用およびワンダラー粒子との相互作用について研究しております。
BC 使用時に脳内で発生するエネルギー量の測定・分析などは？
そういったことももちろんやっておりますよ。例えばレベル4のコミュニケーターの方の場合、最大10マイクロスカラーバリュー程度のエネルギー
And thus, Anna and the staff member essentially had a one-on-one conversation, ignoring the students. And eventually the field trip came to a close.
はい、どうでしたか皆さん？面白かったわね。
As they left the facility, Anna spoke to the lined-up students.
一番面白がってたのは先生じゃないですか。途中から専門用語だらけで置いてかれちゃいましたよ。
A few students laughed at Mashino's jab.
そうね、ごめんなさい。他の先生とああいう話はできないからちょっと盛り上がってしまって恥ずかしいわ。ともかくこれで今日の授業は終わりです。学校に帰るバスもあるけど現地解散も OK よ。
はーい。
皆さん帰り道に気をつけてね。いえ。
And with that piece of advice, the field trip was over. The students dispersed in every which way. Since Natsuhiko and the others were not part of any clubs and thus had no business on campus after school, they decided to head straight home.
し、そんじゃ夏彦、帰ろっか。
そうだな。
Natsuhiko half-heartedly replied. Oh man, I'm kinda tired. The sharp-sighted Anna caught sight of Natsuhiko's yawn and called out to him.
お疲れのご様子ね、天川くん。
先生。
Anna smiled dryly when Natsuhiko twitched.
ダメよ。課外授業中もぼーっとしていたでしょう。
And a little bit of milk might help with that, if you know what I'm saying. Ah! Sorry,
すみません。
天川くんは超心理学があまり好きじゃないのかしら。担当教師としては悲しいんだけど。
違うんです先生。ただ実は僕 BC ってもの自体が苦手なんですよ。理由は一口じゃ説明できないんですが。
Natsuhiko spoke what was on his mind, upon which Mashiro cut in beside him.
夏彦も昔はこんなに BC 嫌いじゃなかったんですけど、年々苦手意識が強くなっちゃったみたいで。
I'm trying to fucking aura farm and be mysterious. Please shut up.
なるほどね。でもそういう人は昔から多いわ。
Anna smiled somewhat sadly as she spoke.
私はそんな人々の意識をできれば変えたいと思ってるのよ。そのために超心理学の教師になったようなものなの。私自身はコミュニケーターでもないのにね。ちょっと変かしら。
いや、ちっとも変じゃないです。
Natsuhiko struggled to find a reply. Just as Anna said, she was a parapsychology teacher, but couldn't use BC in the slightest. But for someone of Anna's generation, that was only natural. The great worldwide communicator boom only began about 16 years ago after all. The vast majority of those born before that couldn't use BC. Even the teachers at Rokumi Academy were no exception. However, Natsuhiko was somewhat fond of having a female teacher this close to his own age. And so in a rare display of goodwill, Natsuhiko gave reluctant words of encouragement.
立派だと思います。超心理学の教師になりたがる人は少ないと聞きますから。
ありがとう。
でも先生はどうしてそんな志を持ったんですか？先生の世代の方が BC 嫌いの人が多いって聞きますけど。
それはね、トバさん。そうすることが今後の社会にとってとても大切なことだと思っているからよ。
And his face suddenly turned serious at that point in the
こ
conversation.
れから人と人との関わり方は大きく変わってくる。きっと社会の在り方もね。今各国では BC の研究とコミュニケーターの保護に力を入れているし、誰もがその可能性に期待しているわ。
可能性って言いますと？
例えばテレパシーでは感情を対象者に直接伝えることができるじゃない？これはいずれ精神治療の分野に応用できるだろうと考えられているのよ。例えば思いっきり明るい感情を対象者に送り込めば精神疾患の原因となる感情を駆逐できるかもしれないってね。
なるほど。それっていい使い方ですね。
ひょっとしたらうちの学校からもそういうニュータイプなセラピストが出てくるかもしれないね。
ええ。でもその一方で扱い方を間違えたら危険なものでもある。 BC の歴史はまだ浅いもの。これが社会にとって良い技術になるのか悪い技術になるのかまだ。でもせっかくなら良い技術になるよう若いコミュニケーターたちを導いてあげたい。そう思ったから私はこの仕事を志したのよ。
Anna was usually playful, but here she spoke with a serious type of tone.
先生、かっこいいです。尊敬しちゃいます。
そう言ってもらえると教師冥利に尽きるわ。
As Anna spoke, she glanced at Natsuhiko.
だからこそね、天川くん。私は生徒のみんなには BC に対し正しい理解をしてほしいのよ。
はい。
今日の課外授業もいつもの実習も全てはそのためのカリキュラムなの。その対象を知ろうともしないまま嫌っちゃダメよ。ね？
なるほど。わかりました。なるべく努力します。
今はそれで十分よ。
And with that, Anna turned back.
それじゃあ先生職員の人にもう一度挨拶してくるわ。また明日。
はい。また明日。
先生さようなら。
And with that exchange of farewells, they parted ways with Anna. And once Anna was out of earshot, Mashido accosted Natsuhiko with a mischievous smile.
やれやれ。夏彦はえな先生の前では素直な
Listen, Mashiro. Come on, man. Can you really blame me? Look at Anna, bro. She is a gorgeous and intellectual and very courageous, strong-willed woman. All right, let me tell you that much, Mashiro. All right. If I had a choice, I would be going for you, but I don't got no choice.
そう見えたか？
そりゃね、努力しますとか言っちゃって、そんなこと大して思ってないくせに。
Bullseye. He himself had forgotten in the heat of the moment, but Natsuhiko staunchly hated BC. His classmates were mastering telepathy one by one, but no matter how much time had passed, Natsuhiko remained at ability level 0. He would completely lose motivation during parapsychology lessons, even now when Anna was his parapsychology teacher.
いやでもな、正直に答えたら先生が傷つくだけだろ。
まあね、先生本当に BC が好きみたいだからね。
いや、多分それだけじゃないぞ。扱い方を間違えたら危険と言ってたし、過去に BC 絡みで何か嫌な目にあったのかもな。だからきっとあんなに真剣に話してたんだよ。
さすがよく見てる。
Yes, sirree, Bob. Right as Mashido said that, a voice suddenly came up from behind.
あなたたちもそう思う？
わっ！
They turned around in surprise to see Salyu standing there behind them.
サリュー？どうした？
あなたたちもそう思うって。
BC は扱い方を間違えたら危険だって思ってる？
This was the first time Salyu was the one to initiate conversation. Natsuhiko answered, somewhat surprised.
いや、まあ昔からそういう風に言われているよ。
フランスでは違うの？
さ
さあって何が言いたいんだ？
別に意見を聞きたかっただけ。用は済んだ。
Sayonara. And with that, Sally promptly started to try to leave.
おい。
ちょっと待ってサリュー。
何？
せっかくだから一緒に帰らない？もうすぐ住宅街方面のバスが出るから。
断る。行くところがあるから。
Sally turned down Mashiro's offer and walked away, leaving just the two of them behind.
なんだあれ。
She's been sent. Sally's surely has to have been sent here on some kind of mission, right? Like, she's got some kind of, like, purpose being here, clearly. After a moment of confusion, they headed back to the bus stop, still at a loss to explain what happened. Natsuhiko and Mashiro boarded the bus back home.
それにしてもあの子、やっぱりちょっと妙だな。
Mashiro turned her head to the side in response to Natsuhiko's comment.
何？サリューのこと？
だってそうだろ？急に妙な質問したり、そのくせ質問の意味は話さなかったり。なんかじっと見られたかと思えば距離を置かれたり、どういうつもりかさっぱりわからない。
何それ？寂しいこと言わないでよ。せっかく友達になったのに。多分サリは緊張してるだけだよ。明日からは一緒に帰ってくれるって。
そうかな。向こうが本当に友達だと思ってるかどうか怪しいもんだ。
もう夏彦ガード硬すぎ。昔はそんな子じゃなかったでしょ。誰とでも気軽に友達になってたじゃん。
そりゃ子供の頃の話だろ。高校生になれば人との付き合い方も変わるさ。
Natsuhiko, you gotta cut it out, man. Stop while you're ahead. Trust me, this path you're going on, it just leads to being like a Reddit or Discord mod. Don't do it.
お堅いな。困ったもんだね、まったく。
As soon as Mashiro finished speaking, an announcement rang out on the bus's speakers.
次は6名公演。6名公演。お降りの方はお手元のボタンを押してください。
6名公演だって。久しぶりだね。
ああ、子供の頃はよくここで遊んだな。
And true enough, outside the window was a huge park. Since they didn't usually take this way back, the bus route was different.
ねえ、せっかく子供の頃の話が出たんだし、ちょっと寄っていかない？
やだよ。ここで降りたら家まで結構歩かなきゃならないぞ。
童心に帰ろうよ。
まあそんなに言うならいいけどさ。
There was something persuasive about Mashiro's persistence. Natsuhiko pressed the stop button out of necessity. Once they got off the bus, a park spread out before them. A refreshing afternoon breeze blew through the trees.
いやー、懐かしいね。何年ぶりかな。
何年だろう。最後いつ来たかも覚えてないな。
あの頃は子供たちみんなここに集まってさ、夏彦中心に遊んだよね。レンレンとかひみっちとかアイポンとか。
Mashiro started listing the friends they had back then by the nicknames she'd made up for them. And sure enough, hearing all those names made Natsuhiko feel nostalgic.
そうだな。リチオとか杉蔵とか丸一なんてやつもいたな。
みんな元気かな。
元気だよ。
Fuck. Natsuhiko offered words of mere consolation. They pretty much hadn't seen any of their friends from back then in a long time. Natsuhiko and Mashiro attended Rokame Academy, a school exclusively for communicators, and aside from Natsuhiko, Mashiro, and Yuri, none of the other kids had any aptitude as communicators. The paths their lives took diverged, and after years and years, they simply found themselves going their separate ways.
でも
Then
さ
you're friends
あ
then,
の頃の夏彦ってほんと友達作るのうまかったよね。
そうか？
学校が違っても年が違ってもこの公園で会ったことは誰でも友達になってたでしょ。ユーリだって後から引っ越してきたのにすぐに仲良くなったもんね。
まあな。
Is that with my? Yeah, we'll keep it at top. True enough, there was the sort of kid Natsuhiko was, which is why he made friends with Yuri even though she was 2 years older than he was.
それがどうして今じゃ転校生を受け入れられないような子になっちゃったのかな。
なるほど、そうきたか。その話をするために僕をここに連れてきたんだな。
にしひ、どうだろうね。
Mashiro smiled deviously.
まあある意味では夏彦もあの頃から変わってないなって気もするけどさ。だって昔から反りが合わない子には厳しいところもあったじゃない？
そうだっけ？
そうだよ。例えば私に対してとか。
Natsuhiko stared blankly at her after hearing such a sudden statement.
僕が？お前に厳しくしてたって？
ああ、ひどい。覚えてないんだ。ほら、この公園でよく喧嘩したじゃん。
喧嘩って。
That word suddenly jogged something in Natsuhiko's memory. God. It was something that had happened 10 years ago. Natsuhiko and Mashiro were having a fight in the park that day.
何さ、夏彦の提灯フグ。
なんだよ、真白のすべすべまんじゅうガニ。
They were fighting over something as trivial as Mashiro calling Natsuhiko's favorite superhero show boring. A flustered Yuri watched the fight from the sidelines.
夏彦くん、真白ちゃん、喧嘩はやめてよ。
ユーリは黙ってろ。
黙ってろって？何さ夏彦、ユーリに向かって偉そうに、この野蛮人。
何を？
The two of them glared at each other, leaving Yuri alone. At this point in time, Natsuhiko and Mashiro had each already started to get along with Yuri, but there was still terrible animosity between Natsuhiko and Mashiro.
大体何？なんとかまんじゅうがにって意味わかんないよ。
お前の方がわかんねえよ、真白のバーカバーカ。
Man, why y'all fucking growling at each other? Back in the day, Natsuhiko and Mashiro often fought over every little thing like this. Natsuhiko would get along with everyone else, but for some reason he had a hard time with Mashiro.
付き合ってらんない。
Eventually, Mashiro threw down a sharp parting remark and walked away.
そりゃこっちのセリフだ。
Natsuhiko turned around and shouted back. That was an everyday occurrence for those two. Even Yuri complained as she watched Mashiro walk away.
もう、どうして夏彦くんって真白ちゃんとはいつも喧嘩ばっかりなの？
だってあいつ女なのに生意気なんだもん。昔から何かっていうと僕に噛みついてきてさ。
Natsuhiko and Mashiro's houses were nearby, so they knew each other before they could remember. They went to the same kindergarten and therefore had more fights than they could count.
でも夏彦くん、正義のヒーローに憧れてるんでしょ？だったら女の子と喧嘩しちゃダメじゃない？
Tell him, Yuri, tell him! Yuri hit a weak spot. Natsuhiko had a strong sense of justice. He was a boy who wouldn't hesitate to challenge bullies that were bigger than him. So he yearned to be the sort of champion of justice that he saw in a manga or TV. And Yuri was right, but...
でも真白は口は悪いしパンチも痛いし。
That's because he likes you, little bro. Come on. This is like elementary school 101.
あいつはきっと悪の手先なんだ。
そんなことないよ。真白ちゃんはいい子だよ。女の子で一番最初に私の友達になってくれたしね。
Yuri vouched for Mashiro with a warm voice. Yuri was 2 years older than Natsuhiko, so he wouldn't get into a fight with her. What Natsuhiko expected of girls was that they'd be gentle and mature like Yuri. In other words, the exact opposite of Mashiro. Her sprite with the fire in the background is so perfect. Mashiro was his age and just as strong-willed as he was, which is probably why they often bumped heads.
もっと二人が仲良くなってくれれば私は嬉しいんだけどな。
ふん、そんな日はきっと来ないね。
Natsuhiko exaggerated. Mashiro teased Natsuhiko as he remembered that incident.
どう？思い出した？
ああ、まあ。
True enough, it was as Mashiro said. They were mortal enemies back when they were kids.
まあ、そのなんだ。過去は過去。今は今だよ。
まあね。あの頃は夏彦と仲良くなるなんて予想もできなかったからね。
人間関係なんて後々どうなるかわからないな。
そうだよ。だからサリともさ、ちゃんと仲良くしてあげてね。
Easier said than done. Natsuhiko thought as he objected.
いや、だからさ、誰にでも気さくに話しかけられたのは子供だったからだって。というか、壁を作ってるのはサリュの方じゃないのか？クラスの女子に話しかけられてもツンとしてたし。
そうかもしれないけど、だとしても考えてみてよ。あの態度も仕方ないじゃない？
何が？
だってフランスから日本へやってきてさ、しかもコミュニケーター専用の学校に転入するとなれば壁も作りたくなるよ。
Natsuhiko was taken aback by what Mashiro said. Certainly, from an outsider's perspective, Rokume City may indeed be a bizarre school. Communicators may have started appearing all across the world, but looking at humanity as a whole, they were still an exceptionally rare breed. For example, even in Japan, the proportion of ordinary people to communicators was said to be 25,000 to 1, and the school was filled with nothing but students who were that rare one. Natsuhiko couldn't even begin to imagine what an ordinary person would think.
例えばサリュが今まで一般人に囲まれて暮らしてたとしたら、やっぱ緊張しちゃうでしょ？
確かにな。エンパシーが使えるやつがそばにいるかもしれないって状況は考えてみれば怖いよな。
Real, that's what I'm saying. Somebody's over there reading my fucking mind, fucking transmitting their emotions into me. Fuck that.
夏彦も
I can't
心
do
を読
shit
ま
to
れるの
fucking
に
block
取れ
him
る口なん
out.
だね。
そりゃあまあ平気な人もいるかもしれないけど、僕はやっぱり怖いよ。
There probably wouldn't be any issue if telepathy were the only BC ability. However, the problem lied with the other ability, empathy. If telepathy was the ability to communicate your mind to others, empathy was the ability to read the minds of others. So for that reason, a lot of ordinary people seem to fear the communicators. There apparently used to be anti-communicator discrimination in the past, too. Which is why the government enacted various policies in order to protect communicators. An example of such legislation was the Communicator Protection Bill, aka the BC Law, enacted 14 years ago. Part of the plan included the establishment of communicator-friendly wards like Rokume City and specialty schools like Rokume Academy. The rare 1 out of 25,000 individuals naturally gathered to the city. About 350 communicators lived in the city, or 20% of all communicators currently in Japan. About 1 in 500 city residents were communicators, and thus many communicators came to live in the same place and received focused protection. Japan led the world in performing such measures, and for its efforts Japan became known as an advanced BC nation.
まあフランスの情勢がよくわからないけど、環境は全然違うんだろうな。
そうそう。つまりサリはまだ新しい環境に慣れてないだけなんだよ。緊張するのも当然。だったら優しくしてあげなきゃね。
Mashiro asked with a smile, which moved Natsuhiko. He was impressed by her consideration and attention to detail.
真っ白ってなんだ、いいやつだな。
You're chill, I guess.
何言ってんの？昔の夏彦がやってたことを真似してるだけだよ。
そうなのか？昔の僕はいいやつだったってこと？
Was I really such a fucking great, awesome guy? Wow.
まあ今も十分いいやつだけどね、夏彦は。意固地なのがたまに傷なんだよね。
そうかもな。
Natsuhiko gave a wry smile. He couldn't completely approve of Mashiro's viewpoint. After the years went by, his way of thinking solidified, It wasn't something that could be unlearned that easily. But nevertheless...
仕方ないな。真っ白に免じて、少しは警戒を緩めてみよ
うん、そのくらいでいいよ。今はそれが精一杯。ってね。
なんだそれ。またアニメの引用か。
そう。私たちが生まれるずっと前のね。
Their conversation derailed before long. A calm breeze enveloped them, and thus the two of them spent some leisurely time at the park. Once the sun had set, they boarded the bus again and headed home. The bus dropped them off for the stop closest to their homes. Mashiro would ordinarily stop by her house, but since they stayed out late, she went directly to Tenkawa residence today. But by the time they reached the house, goddamn, excuse me, Natsuhiko noticed something strange.
あれ
There was a jet black car parked out in front of his house.
高級車っぽいね。誰の車？
さあ。
Uh-oh, that's not good. With his head tilted to the side, Natsuhiko walked past the car and entered his home. They took their shoes off at the entrance and headed to the living room when...
ただいま。
Natsuhiko and Mashiro were greeted by an unbelievable sight.
サリュー
Boy, what the hell, boy? Sully was there in the Tenkawa's living room. Yuri was standing there next to her with a smile.
子は何事？
なんでサリューがここにいるんだ？
今日からここに住むことになったから。
は
That's
what I said!
なんでまたユーリ、君は何か聞いてるのか？
Yuri didn't clearly answer whether or not she knew about the situation. Sully spoke to Natsuhiko without giving Yuri a single glance.
これは決定事項。もう取り消せない。決定事項って？
っていうかそもそもなんでサリュがうちに？
それは。
At that moment, a voice rang out from further inside the room.
私の一存よ。
Mother? Natsuhiko turned to the voice in disbelief.
久しぶりね、夏彦。
母さん。
博士！
There stood Natsuhiko's mother, Miyoko Tenkawa, which meant that the car outside was probably a courtesy car for the professor. As a renowned physicist, she was extremely busy by nature. She was always stationed in Labo and very rarely came home, meaning her communication with her son was essentially non-existent.
しばらく連絡取れないと思ったらいきなりこれか。
仕事が忙しいんだもの、仕方ないじゃない。
まあそれはいいよ。それよりどういうことだ？サリュが。
ユイはフランスから引っ越してきた直後で住むところがまだ決まっていないのよ。だからうちに住まわせることにしたの。
The professor called Sally by her real name, Yui, somewhat intimately, but that only got on Natsuhiko's nerves.
僕らに相談もなしにか。だいたいサリュと母さんはどういう関係なんだよ。
What did I just do? Let's go back here.
だから
僕らに相談もなしにか。だいたいサリュと母さんはどういう関係なんだよ。
遠縁の親戚よ。つまりあなたとも親戚。
What the fuck is this? This blonde hair, blue-eyed fucking child prodigy French girl, half Japanese girl is our relative. So you're telling me this mysterious foreign transfer student that popped up out of fucking nowhere that happens to be a like fucking genius prodigy just so happens to be a relative of our physicist, like world-renowned physicist professor mother, who for who knows how, for you know, her lack of communication with us, right? Like we don't have a good relationship, and all of a sudden she just drops in with Solyu. Just like, oh yeah, by the way, she's living with us now. That's fucking convenient. And your excuse for how you know her is she's a relative. Okay. Alright, gotcha. Yeah, let's go with that. She's a relative. You hear that, guys? Salyu is a relative.
Eh?
Now that he thought about it, his mother's maiden name was Sanomiya, and he did get the feeling that she lived in France before, so perhaps they really were related, but still.
本当なのか？
嘘をついてどうするの？私の祖父の妹の孫がフランス人と結婚
My
して
grandfather's
生まれた
younger
のがこの
sister's
子よ。
grandson.
あなたとは9親等離れているからほぼ他人だけれど。
いや、だったら余計にそんな子を住まわせるなんて。
いいじゃない。部屋は余っているんだから。
サリョはそれでいいのか？
異論はない。博士がそう言うなら従うだけ。
そう。これは決定事項よ。
That's interesting. If that's what the professor wants, I'll oblige. Why do you prefer to her as the professor?
もういいでしょ、夏彦。それじゃあ私、仕事が残ってるからラボに戻るわ。
勝手にしろ。
Natsuhiko lost his temper over how the professor slowed down for nobody. But the professor merely sighed and addressed Mashiro.
ましろちゃん、自己承諾になってごめんなさい。ゆいをよろしくね。
はい。でも。
It appeared not even Mashiro could quite understand the situation. She put a finger up to her temple and muttered in a worried tone.
ずいぶん急で、なんていうか、いろいろ大丈夫なんですか？
大丈夫よ。この家についての所持はゆいにはすべて伝えてあるから。
え、そうなの、サリュー？
無論承知。夏彦と優里が一緒に暮らしていることも、真白がそれを知りながら食事を作りに通っていることも。
そうなの。ならいいんだけど、何も知らなかったら、なんていうか誤解されそうだからね。
Damn it, Mashiro, that's not what's important here. The professor ignored Natsuhiko, the only one staunchly against the situation, and continued.
それじゃみんな、これから仲良くね。
And with that, the professor slipped past Natsuhiko and left the house. Soon enough, the car's engine roared and she zoomed away.
相変わらず身勝手な。
Hearing Natsuhiko's murmur, Salyu spoke out.
私がこの家に住むと迷惑？
いや。
だとしたら話が違う。博士は夏彦たちは反対しないはずと言っていたのに。
I guess that goes to show how much he knows her son. When he heard that, Natsuhiko became furious again. Not at Salyu for saying that, but at his mother for her complete disregard for his and Yuri's opinions. Yuri strained to put a smile on her face, somewhat uncomfortably.
やだな、夏彦。何暗い顔してんの？いいじゃない。住人が一人増えるのも賑やかできっと楽しいよ。
ああ、まあな。
Natsuhiko tried to sound amicable in front of Salyu, but in his heart of hearts, excitement wasn't exactly what he wanted. There's no way in hell I could have expected this. His life was changing drastically in ways he couldn't understand. He'd just started to let his guard down, only for it to get pushed right back up. Mashiro made dinner that day just like any other day. Everyone sat around the table. The only difference today was the addition of Salyu. The conversation was shockingly sparse. Mashiro asked Salyu various questions, but only received short, blunt answers. Yuri was there too, but Salyu basically didn't speak to her. Same with Natsuhiko. And thus, dinner ended without any improvement to the awkward atmosphere.
じゃあ3人とも、私そろそろ帰るね。
ああ、今日もありがとう。
真白、また明日ね。
After Salyu gave a non-committal response, Mashiro sent her a fleeting glance and then spoke.
そんじゃ夏彦、ちょっとそこまで送ってくれる？
珍しいな。そんなことを言い出すの。
Right as Natsuhiko began to talk,
察してよ。サリュの件で話したいことがあるんだよ。
Mashiro continued by means of telepathy.
そうだな。わかったよ。
ありがとう。
Natsuhiko nodded and left the house with Mashiro.
いやー、予想外のことになってきたね。
Mashiro said with a wry smile as they left the entryway.
だな。
夏彦的には気が進まないって感じ？
僕は別にいいんだけど、問題は有利の気持ちだよ。
やっぱそこか。
急な環境の変化が有利の心の傷に触るんじゃないかって思ってさ。大丈夫かな？
Naturally, Mashiro was also aware of how Yuri's past experiences prevented her from going outside. Mashiro and Natsuhiko had consulted each other from time to time and agreed to quietly watch over her, but...
軽はずみな考えかもしれないけど、それに関してはむしろいい方向に働くかもよ。
どういうことだ？
有利は今のままじゃどうしたって社会に参加できないでしょ。それってやっぱり有利にとって良くないことだと思うんだ。
I don't know why it took me so long to draw this parallel, but it's kind of like Kanade, or not Kanade, Kaede from Bunny Girl Senpai. It's kind of like that. Just like trauma leading to this fear of the outside and refusal to leave the house kind of thing. Although in this case, it's because obviously one was through a fire and had her parents killed in an accident, and then the other was bullied. But, and again, I still have not seen or heard anything to go against my theory that Yuri is actually dead. That's just me though.
でもサリュが同居人になれば私たち以外の他人とも触れ合うことになるじゃん。それは有利にもプラスになると思うし、博士もそう思ったからサリュを連れてきたんじゃないかな。
そうかな。
Bullshit. Natsuhiko could only halfway agree with that assessment. Mashiro's reasoning made sense, but he didn't expect that sort of thoughtfulness from his cold mother.
まあ有利も見たところそんなに嫌がってはいなかったみたいだけど。
それならなおグッドだね。まあ徐々に慣らしていこうよ。私もなるべく一緒にいるようにするしさ。
そうか。ごめんなマシロ。お前にまで負担をかけて。
いいんだよそんなことは。それより気になるのはサリュの気持ちだよ。有利だけじゃなくてさ。
サリュの？
だってあの子やっぱり緊張してたじゃない？口数も少なかったし。
緊張？お前にはそういう風に見えたのか？
そりゃそうだよ。なんだかんだ言ってもあの子はまだ13歳の女の子なんだよ。年上の男子と同居することになって緊張しないわけないじゃん。もっと夏彦も話しかけて心をほぐしてあげてよ。
そうだな。
Natsuhiko couldn't bring himself to agree, but for now he decided to just go along with what she said.
わかった。なるべく努力するよ。
またその答え？
Go to?
なあ、
Go to?
いや適当に答えてるわけじゃないんだけど。
まあいいよ。期待してるからね。それじゃあね夏彦。
またな。
Mashiro patted Natsuhiko on the shoulder before walking off into the night. Jeez, she's so soft-hearted. That was also one of Mashiro's good points, but...
僕が関わるとなると話は難しいぞ。
He muttered before heading back to the house, but then...
何が難しいの？
A voice called out from the darkness of the entryway, startling Natsuhiko.
いたのかサリュ。
今出てきた。夏彦が戻ってこないから。
マシロとの話聞いてた？
いや、何も。
Really now? Natsuhiko had some doubts, but he couldn't read anything out of Saryu's expression.
いやどうでもいいような話だったんだけどさ。サリュが可愛いとかなんとか。
Natsuhiko tried to gloss things over, but immediately the stuffed animal in Saryu's arms squealed. Natsuhiko was once again startled. At the same time, Saryu's expression stiffened.
サリュ？今それ泣いたか？
それが何か？
Salyu answered as if it were only natural for it to squeal like that. What of it? Is there some sort of trick behind that thing? Salyu abruptly spoke in Natsuhiko's confusion.
夏彦は私を警戒しているのね。
いや、そんなことは。
だとしたら心外。私はあなたを守るために。
See, there you go.
僕を
I knew she sent on some kind of mission.
ちょっと待ってくれ。なんで君が僕を守るんだ？
博士に頼まれた。
母さんが？いやでも何から僕を守るって言うんだ？別に僕は何かの VIP ってわけじゃないのに。
博士曰く。
Fuck, god damn it. It's dangerous around here lately, there's no telling what he could get dragged into or when.
はあ？
Natsuhiko honestly couldn't understand Salyu's words or his mother's intentions. Salyu may have been good at sports and studies, but she would be the last person you'd imagine to be a bodyguard.
だいたいなんで君みたいな女の子に守られなきゃならないんだ？ってまあ、僕が君を守る義理もないけど。
私だって義理があるわけではない。
意味がわかんないよ。そもそも巻き込まれるって具体的には。
The moment he started to speak, Natsuhiko suddenly remembered what happened yesterday. Salyu was there at the scene of Ukida's accident.
これから君の周りでおかしなことが起こるかもしれない。だが一応注意だけはしておいてくれ。
Come to think of it, Mr. Ukida did say that. Natsuhiko couldn't help but feel that those words in that situation had something to do with all this. Don't tell me that Salyu's arrival could have been one of those strange things Mr. Ukida was talking about. Or did he mean that even stranger things were going to start occurring? Did Salyu come to protect Natsuhiko from when that time came?
サリュー、母さんは僕に何か危険が迫ってると思っているの
She'd be
か？
right about that.
詳しいことは私も知らない。ただ、守れと言われただけ。
Salyu answered indifferently. Did she really not know the details? Or did she merely not feel like answering? Natsuhiko couldn't even tell.
とにかく夏彦は素直に私に守られるべき。そう警戒されると私としても行動しにくい。そして邪険にされると嫌な気持ちになる。
It makes me feel bad when you're unkind to me.
それは申し訳ない。
Natsuhiko was overwhelmed by her persuasive power. She was sent here to protect me. What's this girl saying? Natsuhiko gazed at Salyu, not quite understanding what was going through her head. But she showed no intention of talking whatsoever. Should I try to ask her what she means? Would she even humor me with an answer, though? As Natsuhiko mulled over his choices, Salyu abruptly spoke up.
夏彦。
え？
星。好き。
星？
Salyu pointed up. Hoshi? Like Hoshimachi Suisei? And sure enough, there were countless stars floating up above.
別に好きでも嫌いでもないけど。
そう。
それがどうかして。
Salyu cut Natsuhiko off before he could finish.
夏彦の名前の意味って何？
はい？
Natsuhiko stumbled over his words like a fool in light of her barrage of questions.
さあ、知らないけど意味なんかあるのかな？
夏に生まれたの。
Oh, okay.
ああ、うん。6月生まれ。だからかな。
そう。
Okay. Somehow tense silence fell between them. Salyu ignored Natsuhiko's bewilderment and subtly continued the conversation.
名前には何らかの意味が込められている。意味のない名前なんてない。
そういうものか？
そういうもの。あなたたちの名前も意味深い。
何の話？
気づいてない？まあ、偶然だろうとは思うけど。
気づいてないも何も。
He didn't understand her in the slightest.
意味があるといえば、猿というあだ名もそう。真白は何も考えずつけたのだと思うけど、猿とはフランス語でヤーという意味。
Okay.
すなわち挨拶。コミュニケーションの始まり。
まあ、そうなんだ。
This was all news to him, but he wasn't gonna let her know that.
さらに言えば、日本語にも催涙油という響きの似た言葉がある。
催涙油？
知らないの？
知らない。
夏彦は無知。日本人のくせに。
This sudden disparagement annoyed Natsuhiko. What the hell's going on? Can we just get this conversation over with already? The moment that thought crossed Natsuhiko's mind, Salyu's stuffed animal let out a weirder cry than before. Natsuhiko gasped when he heard it. Why did she gasp? Salyu looked at the utterly confused Natsuhiko with gloomy eyes.
では、私は日課があるので失礼する。
ちょっと。
Salyu ignored Natsuhiko and darted back inside. So, Salyu was sent here by Natsuhiko's mother to protect us because dangerous things were going to happen. Or we could get caught up in dangerous things. First off, that didn't fucking work. Now did it? So, what that kind of tells me is that I think, well, not for one, this makes sense why Salyu was so adamant on trying to kill Watase and being so willing to kill all of the other like rescue squad members, because keep in mind, like, she continuously ran from us, and then we do know that there would have come a point where she was just kind of going around killing all of us. Like that was one of the death endings that you can get. So that does make sense why she was the one who was kind of so, aggressive towards Watase when he was trying to like help Natsuhiko and yada yada yada. So yeah, the biggest little drop here that we just got was that, Salyu's around because Natsuhiko's mother hired her to protect Natsuhiko, which means a couple things. It means that, for one, Ukida, when he was claiming, I don't really know what all this is about, Ukida knows something that he wasn't letting the group know in Route A. And then on top of that, it's kind of clear that Natsuhiko's mother is a bit more important at the research facility than Natsuhiko really kind of gave us exposition about. If I recall correctly, I think there was actually a point where we saw her in Route A and she was referred to as like director or something like that. So like she's a top dog over there. So what that kind of tells me is that she knows what's going on. She knows what's about to happen, but we don't know which side of it she's on. So you guys were definitely right in saying that there's going to be 1,000 other questions that are going to pop up, because I already have new questions, right? Like, did Natsuhiko's mother know what's going to happen? Was she the one who set it up and initiated it? Was she trying to stop it? Did she set the event up to stop something else? Does Ukida know more than he let on? What's his role in all of this, if he even plays a larger role? Who is Salyu? Where is she from? What's her actual story? What the fuck is going on with this ferret that she's carrying around? Right? I mean, there are so many more questions. What actually happened to Yuri during that? Is Yuri even alive? I'm going to throw that question on there, because I've convinced myself that Yuri's dead and not real. So, oh man, wow. Holy fuck, that's a lot of things to figure out there.
なんだ今のは。
Natsuhiko was at his wit's end, not understanding the lick of what just occurred. And it didn't look like he could find any answer just by thinking about it. The questions only piled up. Yeah, they are. So in the end, he never heard what exactly she meant by protecting him. But still, honestly, what's with that girl? Salyu's attention was the same as when they parted ways at the Parapsychology Research Center earlier that day. Natsuhiko stood alone at the entryway, pondering Salyu's words. But still, protect me how? Salyu's words were most likely not being made out of the kindness of her heart. She appeared to only be begrudgingly following Dr. Tenkawa's orders. Why did Mom really order Salyu to do that? After all, Rokme City excelled in public order. Very rarely did anyone get dragged into a crime. but even so, there was something that bothered him. Now that I think about it, Mr. Ukita is part of Labo's staff. He's Mom's co-worker. What if that car crash wasn't an accident? What if some circumstances are causing those with connections to Labo to be targeted? He considered the thought for a moment, but he couldn't think of any rationale behind it. Why did the professor give neither Natsuhiko nor Salyu a proper explanation? Furthermore, did Salyu really come just to protect Natsuhiko? Those are good questions to add onto the list, man.
ダメだ。全然わからない。
Natsuhiko muttered to himself and quit trying to think about it. Doesn't look like there's going to be any real harm done, so I'll just leave things as they are. If thinking won't solve something, then just try not to think about it. That was the mantra of Natsuhiko's lifestyle. But even so, Natsuhiko had a faint worry in the back of his mind. The worry that events he couldn't see were slowly coming to a head. Natsuhiko took a quick look at his watch and realized it was already 8 p.m. He pulled himself together and hopped back through the entryway into his home. There's no point worrying about things you can't fix. In the living room, Natsuhiko saw no sign of Salyu. Instead, he saw Yuri quietly reading a book.
おかえりひこり。ちゃんとマシロン送ってあげた？
なあ、送ってあげたよ。
えらいえらい。
Yuri's casual tone of voice was a relief to Natsuhiko. A lot happened today, but it's a huge relief that Yuri is the same as always. All his worries and weariness were washed away with one look at Yuri's smile. Natsuhiko returned her smile and sank into the sofa.
ユーリは今日はどういう風に過ごしたんだい？
昨日と同じ。編み物を少しして、続きものの本を2冊読んだよ。
続きもの？どんな本？
とても切ない恋愛小説。主人公の過去について自らの記憶をもとに記したっていう形式のお話なんだけど、冒頭に出てくる記憶というのはすごく曖昧なものだっていう言葉が印象的で、ぐいぐい引き込まれちゃった。
記憶は曖昧なもの？
そう。
Fuck, goddammit. According to the protagonist himself, people tend to rewrite their own memories unconsciously. Huh. People tend to rewrite their own memories unconsciously.
だから、これから語る物語も真実とは限らないってね。そんな始まり方の恋愛小説ってなんか面白そうでしょ？
うん。ちょっと煙に巻かれた感じもするけど。
でもね、確かにその通りだって、話を読み進めていけばわかるの。記憶はいつだって不確かで、現在の状況とか、思い出す時の心境によって全く変わる。
I mean, it's funny because this whole sequence is a memory.
え？そんなことってあるか？
あるよ。例えば、素敵な恋をしている人がいたとするでしょ？その恋が続いているうちは、恋人との記憶は輝いて見えるけど、恋が終わったら辛いだけになっちゃうかもでしょ？
確かにそうかもしれないな。経験がないから何とも言えないけど。
恋だけじゃなくてもさ、日常のさりげないシーンでも、そういうのは起こると思うよ。あるセリフを言ったのが、自分だったのか相手だったのかが入れ替わったりね。
なあ、それはわかる。真白ともよく、お前が言った、いやあんたが言ったの問題で揉めることが多い。
でしょ？そしてこの主人公も、自分の過去について思い返すたびに、微妙に記憶が書き換わっていることを自覚していくの。事実が変わらなくとも、思いは移ろう。絶対の真実なんかない。あらゆる過去は曖昧な霧の中にある。だから、どの記憶が本当だったのか、主人公自身にもわからない。だけど、そこまで読んだところ、続きはまた明日。
そうか。
Even Yuri was confusing him now. Natsuhiko's shoulders drooped. She smiled softly and continued.
でもね、この物語の結論がどうなるのかわからないけど、希望のある話って感じがしない？
記憶ってのは曖昧だってことが？
うん。記憶は移ろうものだけど、だからこそ、いつか辛い記憶も悲しい思い出もひっくるめて、綺麗なものに変わる日が来ればいいなって思うよ。
Oh shit. Fuck my goddammit. Her words sounded more than just a simple impression of a novel, but her expression was unexpectedly calm, which relieved Natsuhiko as he answered.
そうだな。本当にそう思うよ。
え？
それにしてもユーリ、そういう記憶に関する話好きだな。前にもそんな小説の話してくれたじゃないか。同じ事件に対して登場人物全員がバラバラの証言をするやつ。
This is some very, very subtle fourth wall breaking.
大好き。自分の記憶でさえ移ろうんだから、まして他人同士だと全然別の印象を持つこともあるんだろうね。
Now that she mentioned it, Natsuhiko noticed that he and Mashido had completely contrary impressions of Salyu. That reminds me, I haven't directly asked Yuri about her yet, have I? And with that thought on his mind, Natsuhiko asked her with a sigh.
なあユーリ、印象といえばだけどさ。
え？何？
サリュについてだけど、どう思う？
どうしたの急に。ヒコリンはサリュちゃん苦手なの？
いや、そんなことはないけど、急に同居人が増えてユーリは大丈夫かなって思ってさ。
私は大丈夫だけど、むしろサリュちゃんが心配かな。緊張している風に見えるよ。
え？ユーリもか？
ねえヒコリン、サリュちゃんと友達になってあげてよ。私にそうしてくれたようにさ。
I'm friends with all the girls.
ユーリと友達になった時みたいに。
That was a story from long, long ago. Natsuhiko's brain became filled with memories of those days. He felt as if time itself were melting away as he recalled the memory of the day he and Yuri first met. Oh fuck, here we go, goddammit. Oh, do we keep it going? Do we keep it going or not? Okay, we'll see. That day was nearly 10 years ago. On that day alone, all of Natsuhiko's playmates were busy, including Mashido.
せっかく日曜日だってのに。
Natsuhiko went and played by himself in the park, bored. And that was when he met Yuri, who was doing the same. For some reason, tears were spilling down her face. She was so quiet, yet so sad. Upon seeing her, Natsuhiko got concerned and asked her.
なあなあ、なんで泣いてるの？
That was the first conversation Natsuhiko and Yuri ever had.
僕、夏彦。
夏彦くん？
お前、ことのユーリだろ？ちょっと前に近くに引っ越してきた。友達になろうよ。せっかくご近所なんだからさ。
いいの？
え？友達になっちゃダメなのか？
だって私超能力者だから。
Ooh, an Esper.
超能力者？
Communicator.
それで？
Yeah, I kind of forget that Yuri is a communicator, but she obviously never developed it, because she was fucking traumatized and shit, but...
人の気持ちとか読めちゃうかもしれないよ。
別にそんなことないよ。なあなあ、一緒に遊ぼうぜ。
ありがとう。
And then the two of them started to play together. Though they weren't quite sure what they could play with just the two of them. They started off only playing simple games like hopscotch and S-can. But just hopping up and down on the lawn brought a smile to Yuri's face.
なかなかやるな、ユーリ。
そんなことないよ。 夏彦くんの方がケンケンパも S ケンもずっとうまいよ。
でもさすがにちょっとくたびれた。休憩しよう。
The two of them sat down together on the grass. Natsuhiko took a deep breath and asked Yuri a question.
ところでユーリはさ、なんでこの町に引っ越してきたの？
お父さんがその方が私のためだって。六名士は超能力者が多いからって。ここなら私も気味悪がられないはずって。
That reminded Natsuhiko. His mother had told him that this town had far more communicators than other towns.
そうだね。僕も適性があるらしいし。
夏彦くんもコミュニケーターなの？
うん、なんかそうみたい。テレパシーもまだ使えないけどね。
そうなんだ。実は私も
同じだ。
Natsuhiko laughed. Yuri smiled in reply.
それにね、僕だけじゃないよ。知り合いの真っ白ってやつも適性が高いって自慢してたし。この町はコミだから誰も。
I'm just clicking everything. Holy fuck. Oh, let's go back a little bit.
それにね、僕だけじゃないよ。知り合いの真っ白ってやつも適性が高いって自慢してたし。この町はコミュニケーターがいっぱいだよ。いて当たり前ってくらい。だから誰も有利を気味悪がったりしないよ。
夏彦くんも？
もちろん。絶対だって。有利は心配性だな。
Natsuhiko smiled and Yuri smiled back in return.
よかった。私、本当はね、すごく不安だったの。
なんで？
お引っ越ししてから友達できるかなって、なんか信じられなかったから。
でも、もうできたよね。この公園には子供がいっぱい集まるからさ、ここに通えば他の友達もできるよ。
ありがとう。私いっぱい通うね。初めて来たのに夏彦くんと友達になれたし。
Yuri said only that much before suddenly making a face as if she had suddenly remembered something.
そういえば、なんで夏彦くんは私に声かけてくれたの？見たことない子なのに、それも女の子なのに。
それは。
Because I can never leave a girl who's crying by herself. This is kind of man I am.
それは？
なんとなく。
なんとなくか。
Yuri seemed a little disappointed. But Natsuhiko lied. The real reason was because he saw Yuri crying. That's why he called out to her. Because he wanted to be there for her. Because he's real as fuck. And for these past 10 years, he always had been. Once he had remembered that day, he finally became self-aware of the reason why he had his guard up around Salia. Excuse me. I see. So that's how it was. I'm afraid of Mom and Salia trying to change my current life. This home was a place of peace for Natsuhiko, a safe haven from all the evils that threatened to break Yuri's fragile heart. Natsuhiko had already almost completely lost that refuge once, only barely managing to recover it. He'd been fervently protecting it ever since. He didn't like the feeling of an outsider stepping foot into his sanctuary. Let's see. Oh, what the fuck? Oh, that's cool as shit. What the hell? Okay. We'll take a look at that later. What am I trying to press? V. I guess we can put some faith in ourselves, right? We'll see what happens. Which is why he was putting such an emphasis on Yuri's feelings in this present situation.
なあ、ユーリ。本当にサリュが住むことについて異論はないんだな。
ないよ。ヒコリンは？
僕は正直少し戸惑ってるよ。
I love this face.
妙なことを言うからな。
妙なことって？
僕を守りに来たとかなんとか、なんか逆に不 きつじゃないか?
At those words, Yuri made an odd smile, and then suddenly spoke in a quiet voice. Here we go.
ヒコリン、悪い方に取っちゃダメだよ。
え?
サルちゃんはね、きっと本心で言ってるの。
Those words startled Natsuhiko. What? Something's different about Yuri, just like yesterday. She suddenly spoke with a serious look on her face. She never used to do that in the past. She almost seemed like an entirely different person. Yuri continued, staring straight into Natsuhiko's confused eyes.
サルちゃんは、ヒコリンを守ることに自分の役目を見出したんだよ。あの子はずっと、それを欲していたんだから。
ユーリ、まるでサリを前から知ってるような口ぶりじゃないか。まさか、もともと知り合いだったのか?
If that were the case, then he'd easily understand why she wasn't at all disturbed by Sayu's sudden move in. But Yuri silently shook her head. Fuck on goddamn it. No, I only just met her now in the same way you did.
でも、
Oh, what the fuck? It's red.
私にはわかるんだ。
We're gonna put our faith in her, I guess. Yeah.
どうして?
どうしてだろうね。でもサルちゃんは、きっとヒコリンの味方だと思うよ。
Huh.
味方だって? 急にそんな風には思いにくいな。
そうだよね。
Yuri smiled sadly as she said so.
変化することをヒコリンも私も避け続けてきたよね。だけどいつかは受け入れなければダメなんだよ。そうしなければずっと過去にとらわれたままになっちゃうから。
She fell silent. The only sound in the still room was the ticking of the hands on the wall clock. Clock? Natsuhiko gasped. That's right. Yesterday, when Yuri started talking with this tone of voice, he looked at his watch only to find it had been broken before he'd realized it. No way. Natsuhiko looked at his watch and stared in disbelief. The dial had cracked, the hands were stopped, and the date displayed was days into the future. 9:16, 6:19, early morning 5 days from today.
どうして?
Yuri continued despite Natsuhiko's terror.
ねえ、ヒコリン。わからないことがいくつあっても、疑わしいことだらけでも、何が本当で、何が嘘でも、ヒコリンは善意に囲まれているはずだよ。だから、周りの人を疑わないで。疑うなら、私だけでいい。
Huh. If you must distrust someone, distrust me. And with that, Yuri turned around and left the living room.
ユーリ、待ってくれ。それどういう意味だ?
Natsuhiko chased after Yuri, placing his hand on the living room door. And opened it. And we're back. Alright, I think we're gonna end it there. Save. And then we can... First off, I do want to check the map. Ah, fuck, it goes back to this. Alright, never mind. Title, here we go. Okay! So, that's an interesting line to leave off on. If you must distrust somebody, distrust me. Huh. If you must distrust somebody, distrust me. Okay, let's theorize. So, I've obviously kind of jokingly played around with the idea of her actually being dead, which honestly I think could be a thing. Like, I don't know how these telepathy, powers work and stuff, but I'm just saying. Now, let's take the more logical route and say that that's not the case. These are flashbacks and these are memories. So we can't necessarily take these moments... Well, I wouldn't want to take these moments at face value necessarily. But I do want to bring back an old theory that I brought up a long ass time ago. I hit my mic. Which was that these girls... So at the time, Yuri was included in that, and also the dead girl that we found up against the factory elevator, like lift elevator, that they were parts of a experiment going on in the laboratory, and that this whole incident here was some kind of cover-up for that or including that. And so I think it's very possible now that Solyu might actually be a part of that too. It's the fact that she refers to Natsuhiko's mom as the professor. I mean, it's very like professional, kind of like simultaneously intimate yet very knowing of the boundaries of their relationship. So it really gives that kind of vibe of like almost master servant, right? Like, yeah, no, the professor told me to protect you, so that's what I'm here to do. Oh fuck. Okay. But yeah, no, so that's very interesting. So I think I'm almost kind of circling back around to that idea that Solyu, maybe Yuri, and that dead girl that we found by the elevator control panel are all parts of some kind of like experiment that they're doing on humans in that laboratory. Now, what could the experiments be? I'm not exactly sure. We obviously know that this particle accelerator has something to do with it. Now, beforehand, I did theorize that it had something to do with the aggressive nature that kind of ended up seemingly taking over Solyu, and definitely taking over our whole group as they kind of went crazy. But I do think we can chalk that more up to just them going crazy in general. And then obviously with Solyu, it was just legitimate, like that was her protocol is the word I want to use, of protect Natsuhiko, don't let anyone near him at this point. So there is that. Now there is also some interesting bits of play, because I mean with the whole telepathy thing, it really does cleverly open up a whole slew of different possibilities. But assuming we go along with the theory that there's some kind of human experiments going on here, it would make sense. Rokame is a BC city. They would, in order to carry out these kinds of experiments, it only makes sense they would carry out those kinds of experiments in a BC city. You know, it's a top secret laboratory that's under the guise of a nuclear reactor facility. It has these particle accelerators in there. Why do they have particle accelerators? Why do they lie about it? Why is it that, you know, it seems like there is some kind of elevator in the quote-unquote nuclear reactor room. There's some kind of elevator that leads up to the top level there. So there is stuff going on that, you know, we are still so in the dark about. But I think at this point, my theory, my overall theory for just the general plot of this is that there is... I think they were doing some kind of human experiments in the facility, likely involving or not involving the particle accelerator that they had there. I think that it's possible, while Yuri may not have been a result of the experiments, she may have gotten exposed to some of the results of the experiments while she was down there, which is why she doesn't want to go out of the house, is so traumatized, but it's maybe slightly under the guise of being traumatized by the fire, which could be very legitimate that she is just traumatized by the fire, but, you know, stick with me here. I think Solyu is a result of that experiment. I think the whole thing about, oh, she's the daughter of the grandson of your, my grandfather's sister's, cousins, niece, aunts and uncles, right? I think that's a whole load of fucking bullshit, all right? I don't think Solyu is related to us whatsoever. I think she is very purposefully being put with us and I think she is from the facility. So clearly something went wrong. Something went wrong. Somebody or something got out. And they are trying to contain it. They're not able to, so they say, fuck it. We're gonna blow up the entire facility and set the whole thing on fire. And if there's casualties, there's casualties, but that's what we gotta do. And so that's where this whole incident happens. So that's why she had sent Sully over there, because it's like, okay, things are getting a little bit dicey around the laboratory. I'm going to have one of our, successful experiments protect my son before bad things start happening. Now, it is pretty interesting because both Ukita and Natsuhiko's mother told him, hey, strange things are going to be happening to you. Even Yuri told him this. And so it's kind of weird because why is this stuff specifically happening to Natsuhiko? Why are weird things going to happen to Natsuhiko? Why are strange things going to happen to Natsuhiko to change his way of life? Why are dangerous things going to potentially happen to him or drag him towards them? Right? So clearly Natsuhiko is important to this in some way, some shape, or some form. But that's kind of my running theory. It's obviously very loose and does not have a lot of the specifics, which hopefully we're going to get whenever we get onto these later routes that are present. So, yeah. But this is very interesting because these little sections here, obviously for the most part, they are just kind of slice of life stuff and world building. But those little bits with Yudi at the end there always give me a really good, kind of lore drop of what's actually, and a slight bit of more insight into what's going on. So that's gonna be it for this time. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure to leave a like on the video and tell me in the comments below what you'd like to see me play next. Remember that I will be posting an update / vlog type video with a couple of questions and clarifications that I want to communicate to and with you guys. If you have any other videos or series, oh no, you already said it. If you enjoyed this video or any other videos or series on my channel, then I highly recommend that you hit the subscribe button and turn on post notifications so you'll be notified when a new one of those videos comes out. Anyways, that's it from me, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.